Hi, everyone. Jules, I'm gonna spend time unpacking this experience at the hospital. I've got a couple of images to show and a couple more stories that are more specific about how the experience went. And I feel it's important to share this so that the dialogue going forward regarding best practices for wellness and health, and even a crisis such as this, where my son attempted to take his life. So the whole story of that day is back in my videos, and you're welcome to watch that one. But this one's more about the hospital and the specifics of that. So I'll just dive right in and show you guys a couple of things and talk about which I've already done. The hospital experience was really damaging. It was uncomfortable constantly, almost constantly, and I felt the need, and so did my son, to want to get out of there. And of course, he couldn't because he had to stay. And my other son he would go out and just wander around, you know, outdoors because he didn't want to be in there. So while the hospital system is doing something, I don't know that it's best practices. So the the thing about being in the hospital that I found was very interesting is, like, the doors, there's really no quiet. It's not quiet. There's no solace. We were unable to sleep. Every 2 or 3 hours, someone would come in and take blood or wake him up for another thing that needed to be monitored or something like that. And it's wonderful, but it's more about CYA. And I had to advocate for him to have, um, at least 5 hours of sleep undisturbed. And that didn't go over very well, but they did attempt to do that because there'd be a different person coming in all the time. So, and every time someone comes in and we have to leave the door open because of the sitter, they wake them up and all that. But even when there's no one there waking us up, it's very loud in there. And like the drawer that they put their vials in, where they, took blood from someone, it's a chute, right? Every time they open that and put stuff in it and close it, it makes this huge slam noise, right? Every time. And people are putting stuff in there all the time. And that was, like, I don't know, 3 doors down, but every time you hear this slam. Now, the same thing with the door that goes out of this wing of the hospital. It was at the end of the hallway, and every time someone went through that door, it slammed shut really loudly. So these simple things could have been fixed. Just put a little soft thing. When that closes, it'll be quiet, a soft close. Right? It's like simple. And the door, that could have been fixed. But so there's this constant noise going on. And my favorite story is this one. So I hadn't slept much, so I was a little grumpy. So I went out one evening. It was like, I don't know, 12 or 1 a.m. or something. I couldn't sleep. And there's this buzzing that's been going on in the hallway. Beep, 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 it's just constantly going. And so I finally went out there and I said, what exactly is the beeping for? It seems consistent, like it doesn't ever go off. What is that? And the nurse said, well, that lets us know that someone is close to is having heart arrhythmia, like a heart palpitation, and they might need help. And I said, well, so you have to go then, right? Because it's beeping. And she said, no, that's just to let us know that there is that happening. But we have others monitoring them specifically on screens. And if it gets to a place where we have to go in and make a change or assist them, then those people who are monitoring will contact me and I'll go. And I said, well, so it seems like this buzzing noise that's constantly going is just superfluous. And she said, she looked at me and she said, No, it lets us know that someone is. And I said, but you're not going unless someone else tells you who's monitoring it. And anyway, I said, thank you very much for the information. I went back and didn't sleep, but tried to lay down. So it's like things like this, they almost seem like they're generating stress with these things that could be simply easily fixed, right? And they just keep these practices in place that are really uncomfortable. I'll show you this uncomfortable bit. This is Ben's right arm. His other arm had two stabs in it, so he can get whatever they're trying to give him through an IV or draw blood through that. And they keep those ports on there all the time. Well, this is his arm, the other arm, which can't even be used anymore because it's been beaten up so badly by all of the things that they've been sticking in his arm. So they moved to the other arm. Well, the other arm looks the same as this one. And towards the end of his stay there, 10 days, he couldn't even, neither one of the arms were good to hold the port. They kept trying to put it back in there and it wouldn't even stay, and tape it. It was, and Ben is so sweet, but it's painful. Every time you have to put one of those in there, painful. And I know they need to give him things, meds and things like that, but it just seems like there must be another way. Really? Right? I mean, that just looks, and bless his heart. They had little mitts on him because he's not clear-headed. Right? He can, every 5 or 10 minutes, he forgets where he is because of all the meds that they gave him in the beginning, that he's still trying to get clear about being present. It's still like he doesn't know where he is half the time, or, every 10 minutes, he kind of has his loop. So anyway, they put these gloves on him, right? All these gloves. And it's like, because he's picking at himself. And they would kind of fuss at him about it. And I felt like, well, he doesn't even know where he is, and I'm going to play this for you. And I hope it will be helpful, just as a perfect example of what it sounds like in there. And I recorded this. This is the way it is whenever something's off with the meds or with anything to do with him. We get this buzzer, right? And I guess it's supposed to alert the nurse, right? So this is like 6 a.m. when I took this. It's a little bit long, but no. Is there any way anyone's going to be able to sleep with that going on? And is there any way they could just know on a screen out there that something's going wrong without it having to make this beep every single time? Right? Bear with me. I just want you to experience it like I did.
Thanks.
So the sitter person
will last a few seconds anyway.
The sitter person came over and punched in a code that turns off the buzzer for a few minutes, right? The thing is, one of the cords is bent. Every time he tries to turn over in the bed, it bends, and then it makes this noise, alerting them that there's a problem with his IV. So the recording is still going because in, I don't know, about every 2 or 3 minutes, that buzzer is going to come right back on until it gets taken care of. And then if he rolls over again, it's going to start again. So not much sleep. And I'll play this part for you all the way to the end because the lady who was trying to help us and pushing the code to turn it off for a little bit, she finally tries to contact a nurse regarding what's going on. She finally says, oh, well, there's no nurse coming. Let me call someone specifically instead of just waiting for them to come and take care of it. So she's very sweet, but check out how this goes when she tries to get help. She has this little thing. It's a call button. She's supposed to be able to call a nurse at any second if she needs to, right? So that's what she tries to do. And all this time, we're kind of just waiting for a nurse to come or a buzzer to start again. I hope you're not bored with this. Man, I'm telling you, this is like here we go. Chronicling days of this. I hope you can hear it. It's like worse than an alarm clock. Maybe it is like an alarm clock.
Nurse. I didn't understand. Look there. 4107 nurse.
So she tries.
Say or spell the name of the group you would like to get into. Add to 4107 nurse.
So she tries like 4 times.
I didn't understand.
And the
4107 nurse.
the message is not working. It keeps saying, I do not understand. 4107 nurse. Oh, didn't work that time either.
4107 nurse.
I didn't understand. I hate this thing, she says. Oh, it finally worked. Here comes the nurse, which is great. I mean, she does come. And again, all these people are really lovely. It's the protocols.
His IV pump is going off. All right, thank you.
Are you annoyed yet? I know. You want to get off of here. You don't want to hear the rest of it because it's so annoying.
Thank you.
Oh, gosh. But let's wait and see what the nurse says when she comes in.
Ben, can I take a look at your arm? All right, I have a job for you today. We got to keep this straight as much as we can. Because when it gets bent and it stays bent like that, that's when that thing starts.
Right? So then she comes in and she gives him the responsibility, which she's trying to sleep, of keeping his arm like extended out like this. So while he's sleeping. And that's his job. Don't bend the IV, and it's really kind of absurd. So that was another experience. Those types of things happened at least every day, if not several times a day. All the noises, all the loud, and then there are other people in there and they're yelling, at their nurse, or it's very chaotic and uncomfortable. And like one evening there were 3 sitters in our room just chatting. So one sitter is always in the room making notes about what's going on, even throughout the whole night. When there's nothing going on, someone has to be sitting there because he's considered a flight risk. So anyway, these people sit there all night long. Well, this other sitter, she must have been like a coordinator sitter. She came in and started talking this late at night, like 11. We're in bed trying to sleep. There are 3 of them standing there chatting about their schedule or about their lives or whatever. And they were, being a little hushed or whatever, but they're in our room. They're just chatting. And I'm sorry. It just, I feel like there needed to be a lot more softness a lot more ease, a lot more peace, in the hospital, a lot more peace. That is doable, isn't it? Or maybe, and this is where I'm going to go next, is it possible that if my son had not been put into, put into the back of that emergency vehicle, I don't know why I can't think of it, and whisked away, and then everything went from there. What if he had a different route? What if some shaman came, saw the situation? What would have transpired next? He wouldn't have left. He wouldn't have been intubated. He wouldn't have been in the hospital for 10 days. What kind of solutions might they have applied? Because what happened is, and if I look in the documents that I got from the hospital, he really was not damaged. His brain chemistry, all the things that they were really worried about, his breathing, all that was not so bad. It really wasn't. And they kept saying, oh, well, we don't see a problem here. We've done this scan. There's no problem with his esophagus. There's no problem. This is great, and it is great. But they intubated him before they knew any of that stuff. And once you do that, you have to go through a hell of a lot of processes to get it back out, right? And I know it's a protocol, but maybe, just maybe, since he was already breathing, he needed less invasive measures. It's just, I don't know. But it's just something I want to explore. So I'm going to be interviewing a lot of different people and seeing their perspective on their hospital stays, and also connecting with some people who have some other wellness practices or health ways of healing that don't have anything to do with the hospital, completely separate. So let's go down that journey, and then I can stop complaining so much about how this went. I mean, noises, needles, no sleep, meds, oodles of meds, fentanyl, all in my son's body for 2.5 days, throwing up all that stuff. I mean, just so much toxicity in the environment and being dumped into us at the hospital. And next time I come on, I'm going to talk to you about the financial part of this, which is another thing that goes, wow, that's really interesting. And I'll tell you about that part of it too. I really, really appreciate you guys who are here with me, or even listening to part of this, because I believe we need a change. We need to shift ourselves, shift our perspective from gotta go to the hospital, sorry to yell at you, to something else like, maybe I could have a different intervention. What does that look like? What could that look like? In a hopeful way, in a serene way, in a soothing way. What might have transpired? What could transpire, except for emergency ambulance ride to hospital, loss of all ease, loss of all control, loss of, they just take over. Protocol. All right. I love you all. I hope you're well. And thanks so much for participating, listening, being a part of this. Bye. See if I can end this. Be well.